Today we're going to read a story about one jar and what's inside it. And that story is Anno's Mysterious Multiplying Jar. This is a story about one jar and what's inside it. There was water in the jar. It seemed as though a bit of wind was blowing inside the jar, for the water was rippling. The rippling water became a deep, wide sea. On the sea was one island. On the island, there were two countries. Within each country, there were 3 mountains. On each mountain, there were 4 walled kingdoms. Within each walled kingdom, there were 5 villages. In each village, there were 6 houses. In each house, there were 7 rooms. In each room, there were 8 cupboards. Within each cupboard, there were 9 boxes. Within each box, there were 10 jars. Within each box, there were 10 jars, but how many jars were in all the boxes together? The answer is surprising. There were 10 jars, but 10 does not just mean 10 jars. It's written out. Let me show you. Oops. When I'm looking at it in the book, they're writing it like this. 10 with an exclamation point. That's why I'm saying it like 10. So 10 with an exclamation point does not just mean 10 jars. It means 10 factorial, or 3,628,800 jars. How could there be so many jars? Let's see. So see how they're writing it out? It's like 10 with an exclamation point. So, to get 10 factorial, we have to multiply 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And we get 3,628,800. It's hard to think about a big number like this. Suppose we use dots for things in the story. Inside the jar, we first came across one island. So one island equals one little dot. But then that one island had 2 countries. So now I have 1 times 2, and I end up with 2 little dots. Those 2 countries, though, each had 3 mountains. So I have the 2 little dots times 3. I end up with 6 dots total. So I have 6 mountains total inside the jar. On each of those mountains, there were 4 walled kingdoms. So if I had 6, now I have to multiply it by 4, and I get 24 walled kingdoms altogether. And then with each kingdom, there were 5 villages. So this is where it really starts to get complicated. I have 24 kingdoms. Each one has 5 villages. So I have to take 24 and multiply it by 5, and I get 120. So if I have 120 villages, and each village has 6 houses, I have to take that 120, multiply it by 6, and I get 720. So now I know that I have 720 houses. But in each house, there were 7 rooms. So I have to take the 720 and multiply it by 7. And I end up with 5,040. So we started with just 1 dot. Now I have 5,040 dots, and I'm not even done yet. So now I have to take my 5,040, and each room had 8 cupboards in it. So I have to take 5,040 and multiply it by 8, and I get 40,320 dots. It's a lot of dots. But I'm still not done. Because in each of those 8 cupboards, there were 9 boxes. So I've got to multiply that huge number, that 40,320 by 9, and I get 362,880. But then each one of those boxes had 10 jars in it. So I've got to multiply that by 10, and I get 3,628,800. That's so much that they couldn't even put all the dots in here. They can just show it to me with the math. They couldn't even put all the dots. That's too many dots. So this little jar right here, if we go through this story, holds over 3 million other jars. I hope you enjoyed reading this book with me. I like thinking about things in math like that. And I also like learning about new symbols in math. Like, I didn't know that if you put an exclamation point after a number, it means you are multiplying all the numbers previous to that number by this. So 10 factorial is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So like 4 factorial would be 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. It's pretty interesting. I hope you liked learning this new thing with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.